All right.
Oh. Okay.
Worked up a sweat. Malcolm is like done. That was his cardio for the week.
That was my cardio. That was the warm down from tonight.
Warm down.
Yeah.
Is it not cool down? Is that not the terminology?
I don't know that.
It's an extended cool down.
That's
starts with a warm up.
Yes. Semantics. No. Okay, welcome to Kappa Picast, episode 2. Woo! It's Kappa Pi at night. It's around, what time is it? We're closing in on, is it 10 or 11?
We're closing in on 11.
Closing in on
11.
We plan to start at 9:30.
But our bodies feel like it's midnight because of daylight savings.
We have caffeine though, so we are okay.
We're okay.
Define okay.
Wait, let me sip this coffee. I'll tell you in a second.
Managing.
Yes.
Staying alive. Today we have Nat and Zachari. Please introduce yourselves to the family. That's them.
Oh, okay. I'm Nat. What should I state? My major?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, everything that's important.
Give us a little
well, I'm a 4th year. Studio art, concentration in fibers and weaving, minor in women and gender studies. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and my sun sign is Leo, my moon sign Capricorn, and my rising sign Leo, so I'm a double Leo.
Can you run those pronouns again? Because you always run through them, and I
Oh, they, them, theirs.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just for the people who are hard of hearing. Zachari.
I'm Zachari. I'm a sophomore architectural design major. No minor.
Yeah.
Yet.
No time.
No time.
You see, that's what I thought until I declared a minor and decided to stay for an extra year.
And that's all my fun facts.
Yeah. Okay. And this is Tanner. And then I'm Malcolm. You already know who we are. Oh, okay. Well, how was everyone's day?
Yeah. It was good. I had a good day.
Yeah.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, it was a good Sunday. I got brunch this morning at my favorite brunch place, the Little Grill Collective.
I tried to go there. The wait was too long.
45 minutes.
40 minutes, worth it.
But those pumpkin
Worth it.
spice pancakes
They're vegan.
are
True.
They're vegan.
amazing.
Yeah, and then after that, I went to the studio and I went here, like,
It's a
one and
success
done.
today.
Yeah.
What about you, Miss Haverkamp?
I was in Richmond until like 4, and then and then I drove here.
All the way.
Traffic, fog. It was great.
Did you see anything peculiar out there in
Or
the mountains?
Not really. There were a lot of cars that didn't have their lights on though, and I was just
See, I
concerned about
never
how
get
they.
that.
Yeah.
never
I
get
don't know
that.
how they were driving on the mountain without lights in the fog, but whatever.
It's difficult to see your charcoal colored car in the fog and rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it helps. I never got it. That's a stupid life choice in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have just a standard question. Why did you guys choose to come to JMU?
Oh, well, two reasons. One, it was the only college I got into, but considering I applied to 3 colleges, well, I got into one after post waitlist and all that jazz VT, but I wasn't interested in going to VT ever. I just applied for the heck of it, and then I don't even remember what the other college I applied to was. And I got into JMU, and it was the only college I really wanted to go to because they have a really good color guard, and I twirl a flag when I'm not doing art.
Heck yeah. Undo bitte.
So basically, my parents decided it would be great to go on a 4-school tour day. So East Carolina, JMU, UVA, VCU was our path.
That's brutal.
Yeah,
Horrible.
That sounds horrible.
But it rained at UVA, rained at ECU, didn't rain here,
Yeah.
and didn't rain at VCU, but VCU is way too close to home. And then I applied to UVA here, tech. Don't really like tech. Got into UVA, but
that's a common thread.
not the architecture program. Got into both here. I liked here the best anyways. So here was easy choice.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Purple.
I aggressively like the color pink.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you always liked the color pink?
It's been my favorite color since I was 4 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like your commitment.
Yeah, no wavering thoughts.
Nope.
Yeah. You, purple? Is it a specific shade?
Not well. Also, it's always been purple since I was little, just because my sister liked pink, and I didn't want to like pink because she liked pink. So
You
our
calling me
room,
out right now?
our room was literally split in the middle. Her side was pink, my side was purple. So whatever purple my mom could find was mine, and everything pink was hers.
Well, you came to the right school for purple.
I mean, yeah,
It was a
it's
form
great.
I'm surprised it didn't rain on your tour. That's like
It rained the second tour. It's okay.
It's notorious for JMU.
Yeah.
I had a clear tour on purple.
I never toured JMU. I
You
was just like, I'm going. I'm set.
Man, how nervous were you on your first day?
I don't
It's a
even.
long time
I don't even think I remember my first day of
Blanked.
college.
Yeah, blacked out.
I really don't remember it. Oh, I had an 8 a.m. calculus class my first day of college. I dropped that class real fast.
Good Lord,
Yeah,
oh my
I was
gosh.
not even nervous because I was just like, it's college, it's whatever.
It's college, it's whatever.
Yeah.
That's the attitude I came in with.
I cried my first day twice. It was great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm proud of you. That was more of my yeah, it's kind of like, oh god, this is
real.
a lot of work. I didn't do this in high school. Oh jeez, Rick. Tanner, I have a lot of questions, but do you have any questions?
You're on a flow. So
Well, so like they're pretty serious. I mean, do you guys mind? We could just transition real unnaturally and
Abrupt,
yeah,
yeah.
very abruptly. So I guess we should probably start with Kappa Pi. Why'd you join Kappa Pi?
Do you want to?
I can go
This
first.
anyway.
Wait, did we rush the same last fall?
Yeah.
Yeah, we rushed the
Wait.
same
Hey.
semester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your
So-
class?
when you
Oh,
realize your class.
I
It was like
looked this
Alpha
up.
Phi.
Alpha Phi.
Phi.
Yeah,
Because it
I
was funny because it was like Kappa Pi, Alpha Phi,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And we used to like say the whole thing all the time because it was
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Heck
But-
yeah.
Mainly Sanan and Kelsey were in my
Kelsey.
Hyman.
Oh.
We're in my 2D? Yeah, 2D design class, and they were like, you have to. So Kayla and I were in it together. Kayla Medina, best brother ever. Shout out to Kayla. And we were like, okay. We didn't until the last day of to like turn in applications 5 minutes before applications were due. We were like filling it out in the lobby and like printed off our transcripts, and we were like, okay, here. And we both got in, and like Rush was great. This one's my brother. It's great.
And proud.
It all just worked out really well.
So,
Everything was just Dan.
Yeah, it was just all great.
perfect.
Okay.
I low-key got harassed into rushing Kappa Phi. Not in a
whoa,
bad
whoa,
way.
Not what we do here.
Not really. I mean, because I like
Can't be throwing those words
thought
out,
about
so.
it since sophomore year. Because I guess not really, because people rush when they're juniors and seniors all the time.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was late to the game because I was a junior. But I wasn't planning on doing it because I'm ridiculously busy all the time and horrible at time management. And Jorge Escobar, who was in my Intro to Fibers class at the
Yes.
time, best alumni ever, he grabbed the application, and we were working on one of our projects like the night before it was due, and as I was like crocheting or something, he starts asking me all these questions, and I look up and it's like, Jorge, are you filling out a Kappa Pi application for me? And he was like, no, you're filling it out. And I was like, oh my gosh.
You answered it.
And then so like at that point I was like, might as well just print out my transcript and follow through.
Last step.
Yeah, and best decision ever. Not
Really?
really. That's too
that was
dramatic.
That's important.
Pretty
Yeah.
shambly application story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the shamblier application
Yeah, you
stories.
really stumbled in there.
Yeah.
Good choices there.
I think I'm doing all right for myself.
Honestly, I think you are too. Go on.
Yeah, sure. So, we're smack dab in the middle of the semester. We're past the middle of the semester, which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can feel free to vent your thoughts on that, but also, what's a project you're working on right now that really is exciting? Yeah.
Ooh, like in my studio practice.
Yeah. It could be anywhere, but I'm,
be,
Oh man, okay, so let me tell you, this is big. I mean, it's not like big as in gonna change the world, but big for me. So I am in this like weird senior seminar thing class with Rob. I'm not really sure what it is. It's like Art 492 or something, and it's a special topics class. And it's just like general stuff like writing artist statements and like doing artist interviews and like reading a book about art and talking about art. It's like just art things. And so he's been pushing me to start thinking about my BFA thesis show already, which like I'm taking the BFA capstone class for studio students next semester. And so I'm working on this huge project for my BFA thesis, and basically I decided that I'm gonna mostly do new work for my BFA thesis show instead of like compiling a lot of my old work. And I'm exploring themes of the topic of femininity in relationship to performed femininity, and the idea of choosing to perform femininity or being forced to perform femininity. And I'm not talking like, oh, choosing to be a girl or choosing to like be girly, but like choosing to be hyper feminine as and in relationship to being forced into those roles by society. So currently I'm collecting used makeup wipes from anyone. I've like collected like over 100 of them, and I'm essentially creating different pieces of work out of them. Right now I'm working on a 12 by 15 foot rug made out of them. And then I'm also going to be doing a series of makeup looks where I do kind of really drag queen-esque makeup, very dramatic, like overdone, like hyper feminine makeup looks, like super glamorous makeup look, and take a picture of it, like a Polaroid of everyone, and sew them together with the makeup wipes. And like it's just a bunch of different projects that are like in the works, but all being connected by like that one theme.
Literally tied together.
Yeah, literally tied together.
That was a plug, by the way, to donate.
Yes, please,
makeup
like
wipes.
just collect them all if you throw them away. And it doesn't have to be wipes, it's any fibrous material that you use to wipe off makeup, essentially.
Yeah, so you can donate wipes to Nat at 1-800.
Wipe away.
Okay, mine's not gonna top that.
I know, I was gonna say that was like far too coherent an answer.
Yikes.
For,
I'm also a
That was
senior
really-
though, so I need to have my poop in a group.
Fair.
Yes.
I don't even have my poop in a group anymore. It's all over. It's a mess. Zachari hit it.
So basically the only project I have going on right now is for my architecture studio, and we are currently working on, this is like a completely theorized like project, but basically bridging the gap between East Campus and like the village area, so like Carrier Drive to the sidewalks in front of UREC, basically like a land bridge. It's like massive, and each person in my class, so it's called 13 pavilions because there's 13 slots for the 13 kids in my class, and it's 75 by 300 feet of land that we each have a designated like function for. So mine is water parks, light sculptures, and sunbathing. So we all have like random things that we have to incorporate into our design, working off of a project we did before that where we all had to buy succulents, take pictures of them, collage the pictures.
Such a difficult and unenjoyable moment.
Yeah, collage the pictures, take the collage, laser cut it, form it into some sort of structure, and give it a function. So it's all like tying together. It's a lot, and hopefully it'll be good. We talked to the
sound excited.
Yeah, we talked to the school architect, and he said that if anybody's design was like actually cool, it might actually be a thing, because they're trying to figure out a way to connect the two other than Carrier Drive and Duke Dog Alley.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense.
Would it be in conjunction with Carrier Drive? How would that work?
The way that we are, well, first we had to build a massive site model. Me and Hunter, it was a lot. Hunter's a brother this year. He's new. Woo. I made him
Not
merch.
yet.
He's a
Not
pledge.
yet.
Oh,
He's a
not yet.
pledge. He's a
pledging,
pledge. I made him
On
merch.
its way.
One day.
But we had, so basically the way it is now, everybody's site is like side by side, and one person at the end is connecting to Carrier, and it's supposed to be parallel to Carrier all the way down to Duke Dog Alley, and ramps up. I don't know, it's complicated. My teacher has a concept. She does.
Someone better have a vision.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like there's a lot of trees.
It's intense,
in the way.
but
A lot of definitely a good number of altitudes being
Yeah.
traversed.
Yeah.
And a very large down, a very large up, and a very large down, and then another up. Okay.
Hello.
And we're back with some more coffee.
Zing.
Zachari, please explain this to me because, like, we're kind of just rolling past this architectural complexity, and I really have no freaking idea what exactly. I know what a site map is. I get all that.
Yeah.
How in the heck are you going to design something that connects, like, a completely different, like, a mile away, like probably 3/4 of a mile away, to UREC?
So basically what
Is it like,
our
are you
teacher
gonna
is like
float?
expecting is kind of so like
Levitation.
the way the bridge is set up is it has the two piers on the side and then it just like
You mean
sits on it?
the
actual bridge.
The current bridge over
So
81.
the current
Okay.
bridge.
Yeah.
So basically what we'd be doing is building horizontal to that, kind of at a slope because
I have to like.
the ground does slope.
Yeah.
And there will be piers on either side and in the middle because the highway is like right there. So there's like the median in between pier there. And then on the outsides, she suggested, they like to suggest, a ramp going up either side, one ending on this end and one ending on this end. So that's not like an intense slope because that's a lot of land. And basically, like, we all have a sidewalk going around the outside, so when you go up the ramp, you'd meet at a sidewalk where you could venture around the territory and go down on the other side if you'd like. She has a lot of complex notions
Would
in
this
there.
sit, like, atop the existing bridge?
It would
or, like,
be
on the side?
On the side. So let's say
To get it-
Carrier
so- 'cause
Drive
it's
is here.
Because it's going across this...
Yeah.
this
Right.
Well, say
81.
Carrier Drive is going across right here.
Mhm.
It'll all be hovering with like the same level as Carrier
Next
Drive.
to it.
Next
Wow.
to
Okay,
it,
okay.
yeah.
Oh.
So the
That makes
person that has
sense.
yeah.
Getting
now I
it.
get
Sorry, it's hard to explain. The person that has the property right beside Carrier is actually using Carrier as a billboard, like the sidewall of Carrier.
Carrier Drive.
Of Carrier Drive is going to be used as a billboard
Really?
at the background of her site, which I think would be really cool. I mean, more money for the
Yay.
school.
Nah, there's a phrase for that that's inappropriate. Yay, money. Give it more. Well, that's a... And so this is your first... Is this a final project for you?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, if that is anything but in your first architectural studio, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
That's
impressive.
intense.
Yeah. She's
What's your
intense.
design? What's your part?
So I have the water feature, light feature, and sunbathing. So I have.
Were you assigned those, or did you pick them?
So we made a giant list of things that we thought would be really cool to have on campus. We also did like a few polls, so like things that people suggested, and we put them all on a whiteboard and like went around the entire class and everybody got to like pick one, and we just divided them up, and that's what I ended up with. Also, she like suggested which ones are original designs for the project that I previously mentioned. She thought would like look best with, so that's how I ended up with those. But right now, what I have is a like shelter structure that has a lot of holes in it, because my succulent had a lot of spots, so it just ended up like that, and that would mainly be like a seating area where you can relax. There's a pool, 6 feet deep. There's a 6-foot pool.
Oh man, I want that to be real.
Yeah,
And
that'd
then
be
I
nice.
have, well, theorized, obviously I can't like show this on my model, but there's like chairs that glow at night. So like they have lights around them and they like glow at night, but during the day you can like lounge on them, chill, have a good time.
I wonder if there's any phosphorescent material that doesn't, like, die out, you know, like 2 hours after it stops being light. Because that would be really cool to involve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think phosphorescence, just the lighting up aspect of it. Because there's so much light pollution, but natural, like, bioluminescence and all that stuff
Yeah.
is sick.
Yeah.
You know, you like see, you ever go on like a big ship or anything like that, and you're in the back, they're just like all churned up. It's like so freaking cool. Yeah, sorry, that little kid in me coming out. Okay. So, I know you're still in the youth of your college career,
Just a baby.
but the question is the same for both of you. Have you guys had a breakout moment in college yet?
Like, what kind of breakout? Breaking out in acting?
Well, I think we've all experienced that. No, I mean more in like a way where things have come into focus.
A formative moment.
Even seminal.
Give me some of this coffee.
I guess for me, I've had a few. I don't know. I guess I'm currently in one, I guess. They can last for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Is that the right one?
Yeah. You're enabling me.
We could be
So
doing
a
worse.
couple of them is, first off, I wasn't even an like a studio art major until my spring semester sophomore year. And that was
2 years before me.
yeah, well, yeah.
Which is, knowing you, is astounding.
Yeah, because
that
like
is-
people are usually like they if they met me after the fact, they're like, oh, that was studio art coming into college, right? And I was undeclared when I first came to JMU actually, and so I guess it was like, and then I did graphic design for a hot second and realized that was just not for me.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not design minded at all. Like I
Whoa,
just.
not like that.
Not in the way that I think maybe a different like design school, but like, you know, every art school / design school has a style to it, you know, and you can really see that within the students and the body of work they make. And I think maybe in a different lifetime, in a different universe, at a different art school, I would have fit that design program. Maybe not. I don't know. Can't guess what ifs. But I just like, it wasn't the right thing for me, and I was taking my studio electives at that time, and I took Intro to Fibers. That springs, well, actually, I took 3D design fall semester, and with Allison Taylor, phenomenal professor, just phenomenal. And
One of the
she
best.
like, I remember it was the last week of classes before finals week or whatever, and she was like, "Hey Nat, you need to take a fibers class," and I was like, "Why?" And she's just like, "You just need to take a fibers course." So I signed up for it. Well, I tried to sign up for it and it was full, and I emailed Rob like 50 times trying to get an override into a class, and eventually I think he got tired of some random person emailing him and gave me an override. And when I was in that class, I think a week into that class I changed my major.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just like knew a week into that class, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
That's a legitimate shout out to Allison Taylor.
Yeah, she
For real,
completely
for real.
changed the direction of my life, telling me to take fibers. And that was definitely like one of those like aha moments where I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be
Here
doing.
it is.
Yeah, this
Here
is
it
like
is.
why like all these random things led me to this moment. And then I guess this year, finally not being in a fibers class, and well, I'm kind of technically not being in a fibers studio class, and still trying to make fibers work is kind of that same aha moment where it's like I'm finally figured out what kind of artist, what am I making art about when I don't have someone telling me what to do, when I don't have projects like on the back of my neck telling me, hey, go in this direction. I like free range with this project that I'm working with, and it was like I had to spend like the first 2-3 months of the semester just finding myself as an artist, and I'm still finding myself, but I'm on the path of finally figuring it out.
That's
Yeah.
that was beautifully said.
Amen.
You barely took a breath. It
I don't breathe. I don't need to. It's just for fun.
Photosynthesis.
I wish.
Well, no, Zachari, I'm curious to see if you have an answer or anything that comes close to something of clarity.
I mean, like, this year is my first year in, like, an actual architecture class. Where, like, last year it was all studios and, like, prereqs. So, like, drawing classes and 2D and 3D. And, like, I can draw, but, like, not that great. I'm not a studio major. Like, I don't draw like that. So, last year was a little, like, confusing. I was like, am I supposed to, like, is this right? Am I supposed to be
Am I
here?
supposed to be here? Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
the right, like, path? Am I messing up? And then this year, like, being in like the actual architecture studio, working on projects that don't completely make sense to me, but make a lot more sense than draw this figure. It is a lot better, especially because my teacher, like, will have, like, side conversations.
Who's your
and she'll,
professor?
Wanda,
Wanda.
something. She's new. She's
Okay,
brand new.
okay.
She
Oh,
hasn't
okay.
been here
Okay.
before. This is her
Okay.
first year.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Because our studio is too big. They had to split it into two. The sophomore
Really?
studio was too big, yeah. Because usually Tate just teaches the whole section, but they had to split it into two sections.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
So
sign.
I
That's
feel
so
like the
great.
architecture, like, major is growing here, which
That's
is great.
awesome.
But she's new, so she's figuring things out. But so are we, so it's kind of like good.
Aw.
But basically, like, taking that class and talking to her and her being like, I can see that you, like, want this, is like where I'm like, oh, yes, okay, it's good. Because
The cockles of your heart.
yeah, because me and only a few other people in my class were people who had, like, taken classes like this before, like, kind of
CAD.
knew we wanted to do this.
Did you
Yeah,
have-
like
Did you
AutoCAD.
have courses in high school?
Yeah, I
Okay.
actually had AutoCAD courses and, like, hand drafting courses in high school. I was just
That's
lucky
nice.
like that.
That's-
Yeah,
that's
most schools
really
don't have
fortunate.
that, but I was just really lucky to have it. And it actually, like, helps out because me and Hunter, which is the pledge, we built the site model for my class because we were pretty much the only two who understood the blueprint, which is, like, kind of cool because I'm like, hey, like, I'm a little bit ahead.
I got
Like,
this.
I'm obviously
Not
not
to
the
toot
best
my own
designer
horn,
in
but
the
toot
class,
too.
and definitely not in the studio because you're with everyone. Like, Rachel Sweatnam comes over and I'm like, oh, don't look, please don't look. It's horrible, but it's just, like, really nice being somewhere where you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm not trying to draw this person in front of me. I'm drawing what I, like, want to see.
Yeah.
Wait, so this is a totally tangential question, but so it's been a long time since I was looking up at people in college. Now I'm looking up at people in grad school and
Yeah.
right. So as it's interesting to see someone who's young in their major. What is it like to look at the kids, or like what do you think of the kids who are older in the major, like seniors or juniors?
They're all, like, insanely nice, which is kind of, like, weird. I'm trying to figure out if they're nice, like, because they have to, or if they're nice because they're genuine people. Like,
Why wouldn't they be nice?
because we're all college students and we all have stuff going on, but I'll, like, go into the studio at 1 a.m. and they're, like, working on their project that's, like, due for critique tomorrow, and they're like, they'll take time and stop and be like, hey, what are you working on? Like, do you need help? And I'm like, you have a project due tomorrow. Why are you trying to help me? Like, do you need help? But I mean, just knowing some of the people, like Rachel Sweatnam, Alyssa, literally, I can see her from my desk, and I'll, like, look over, and if I'm, like, stuck, I'll be like, hey, can you, like, come over and, like, help, or can we just, like, talk so I can stop thinking about this? And, like, we walk through the studio all the time, me and the people in my studio, just to, like, see what they're working on, take a break from our stuff, because, obviously they work on things a lot more intricate than us, and they all have a ton of talent, and it's just like, wow. We're gonna be there one day.
Yeah,
Trying to
Yeah,
pick
yeah.
out my desk
Yeah.
for the
Right,
next
yeah,
few years.
yeah. You're like, ooh, I like the light over there.
I like
Yeah.
that desk.
It's a unique situation because the program is not at the size where you have to be split up. So
Yeah.
you're all in the same space.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
a
get
massive room.
the people you look up to are literally your neighbors
Yeah.
bench-wise.
We're all right beside each other. We have the exact same desks. Everybody has the exact same desk. Everybody has the exact same tools. So it's like, look, everybody makes something completely different from the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of wish that the studio art program had something like that in place, because I feel like I barely know any other studio art majors my year.
Oh, wow, my year ahead.
Yeah, you're year ahead. I know personally and talk to on a somewhat regular basis, I think 2 studio majors my year.
Really?
And it's Matt Perkins and Hannah Pattison. Matt Perkins is a brother, but he I don't know anyone else. Like, I don't know who else is also
Gavin,
yes, but he's still working on the Clarin studio art, is he? Or
I
switching?
think he just got it.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. But I wish there was some sort of, like, classroom or space or something set up where we actually find out that there are other majors our year without just, like, fumbling around through call until we find
Yeah.
them.
Communal. And, and
Some sort of community for the studio art major.
You got something on the tip of your tongue. I can feel it.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, as a graphic design major, we sort of have this aspect a little bit, but only for our senior year.
Yeah.
So we only get a bench for our senior year. So
Yeah.
that is like a prize that I look up to and am envious of until I finally get it. But I think you're right. I think that community aspect is hugely beneficial to learning, and I think it is something that the studio art program should look into, like providing to their majors in some way. And it may not be practical, but you're right. I think that kind of opportunity would be hugely beneficial.
Community is so important for the arts.
And
So
it's your
important.
own.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your desk.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's yours for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is. But it's by the end of your time at college, you're clearing out your desk, right? And that has all your stuff on it. And like it's where you go to do your work. And and that's right next to people who have the same exact parameters of it. They have, but it's filled. It might be really neat and like where
Personality,
it's, right?
desk,
Everything goes up. All I have is,
mine's a wreck. Tanner's like, I know.
if you could see the other side of from where we're sitting, if you could see the rest
it's
of the
so
studio,
organized. Everything
it's
is known.
perfectly organized. There's like just a luxurious amount of space. Yeah, you could find anything without even I think I can literally find everything with my eyes. That's how organized it is.
There's beauty in chaos.
Yes, there
absolutely.
is.
I just have my 4 lockers at MHAC. That's it. I wish the photo program had it, but it's funny, the photo program was kind of like the dark rooms are our desks, and and like you spend.
There's that one in Larger Station that I always use.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same one I always use, and then you're in there, and I'm like, get out.
I'm at number 2, so and I have a sticker there, so it's hard to find, but it is there. So it is. Someone asks,
marked.
You're right. They're like, your name's not on it, and I'm like,
My sticker's on it.
who else looks like that? No, but I'm actually envious of the studio center setup, even though we all have our own little prison, right?
Yeah. Call it a prison.
Oh, it's a good and bad. It's like voluntary incarceration, right? Like you spend time, you spend like 40 hours, like just as the semester goes on, it starts to be like it was 10 hours, now it's 20, now it seems like 30 and 40, right? And like you start complaining about the fact that at least at the photo studio, it's like if they put a vending machine in there, I would eat literally everything in it.
Yes.
Like I would everything.
Yes.
Like they're like it's not enough traffic. No, there'd be enough traffic. I'd give it traffic, right? So that I think that's something really special, and to be able to look across like your desk to someone else's desk, and like there's the imaginary plane, right? Of just like this is my space, this is their space, and like not physically reaching out for help, but verbally.
Yes.
That I think that's incredibly valuable, especially for architecture when you're talking about just seeing. You have to be able to see, like look at a flat piece of paper and like see a 4-dimensional building or what form, I guess would be a good word for it. And that just takes a lot of thinking and like understanding of perception, and I wish they had that for every studio.
Yeah.
That's invaluable. And aren't you the only fibers major?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though, is like Rob created a space for the fibers concentration, and it's like this room, and I have my own desk and like my own area, but I'm the only fibers concentration, so like whoop-de-doo. It was great when Ashley was around, and like
Who?
Ashley Roth.
Oh yeah.
Yes, but the thing is, because there's 6 concentrations for studio art, if we get split into our concentrations and make a space per concentration, I think it's just that a lot of people would end up being by themselves, or like with very few people. Like I think Hannah, she's the only person in the sculpture space. And so I moved my stuff into the sculpture space, despite not being a sculpture concentration, in order to have a little bit more of a community thing, even though there's 2 of us. So I don't know, it's just kind of hard because there's not a practical way to do it, at least physically, right. But I think that's what they're trying a little bit to do with the BFA capstone class for studio art, is to get us all together, but it'd be nice if that could happen sooner in our art careers, because, you know, my art making is always best when I can talk to other people and bounce ideas out with other people and have a dialogue, because that's what art is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a form of dialogue, and if you're only having a dialogue with yourself in the creation of your art piece, there's going to be something lacking there.
And you get pushed.
Yeah, you get pushed so much harder when
and
you...
it's that little bit of competition.
Yes,
even if you're not competitive.
It's there.
Right, because it doesn't matter if you're like, it's not a sports thing. It's like your passion, and you're like, you know what, I can make this really good. I'm going to make this really good.
But also, if you see someone in the studio for like all hours of the night, it makes you want to be in the studio all the time.
Sarah Phillips, that's
yes, she was always there.
She what we're drinking off of. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you, Nat, about fibers. You mentioned how we're talking about how you're the only fibers major. Yes. I mean, is there concern in that program about the longevity?
Yeah, someone usually comes around. I mean, regardless, people will always be taking the fibers courses.
Correct.
Because we have, like, graphic design students. Every design student has to take studio elective 6, I think.
6 different courses.
12 credits.
12 credits, okay.
12 credits, so 4 classes.
4 classes, okay, so every design student has to take studio electives, and every studio art student has to take, I think, 6 studio electives outside of their concentration. Right. So there's always going to be a need for those classes, in the sense that, you know, everyone at some point is like, oh man, what's fibers? Let me just take this class because I'm kind of curious. And then they're like, what did I get myself into? But as far as like there being a fibers concentration student, someone always comes around. Like Ashley thought she was gonna be the last one for a while, and then I showed up, and then I thought I was gonna be the last one, but there's one person in one of Rob's intro class who's thinking about changing their concentration to fibers from painting or drawing. So I think
that's one thing.
Yeah, so, painting and drawing. From painting and drawing, I think they're painting and drawing right now to fibers, and someone usually comes around.
What is that noise?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, it's the bathroom. Okay.
Bathroom is right. There's a toilet right behind the camera.
Yeah, like literally not even a wall there. Just a toilet. We're watching someone use the toilet.
We're a very open community.
Yeah, art students.
Art students.
We share everything.
Slumming it since day one. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, fibers. So I'm a photo and journalism double major, right? So, pretty much the farthest thing from fibers you're gonna get. You know,
hey, no, paper is a fiber, and you're printing down paper.
That's true. And I feel bad about it every day because I just waste so much paper. I try. I do my best, but it's really difficult.
Paper is compostable, so
right.
Paper is one of the most renewable resources.
Yep. Yeah, but I try not to use. You know, I try to use. I try to use less. Yeah.
Anyway,
back to the
I'm
question.
A D-man. No. So, you know, like to me, when I see like a fibers work, right, like I don't, you know, conceptually I understand where things are coming from, and you know, as we all get more advanced into these concepts, like they get very abstracted. They're just not fibers. I'm just talking like all concentrations. Like this, you're in your first studio, and I'm like already like. Me too. Right. So, you know, how would you relate kind of like the basic avenue of expression like that you talked about, dialogue for fibers, and like what. How do you read a fibers piece of art, like not a fibrous, but a fibers major artwork?
A fibers major's artwork. Yeah. Okay. Okay. How do? That's a good question. I guess first off, in terms of fibers being a form of expression, I think for me, I guess I should like kind of unpack why I like to do fiber art instead of like
Please.
other types of art. And for me, I guess it's more the history of it, because in reality, as contemporary artists, we don't really. I'm not a fiber artist. You know, when I graduate JMU, I'm not going to be a fiber artist. I'm going to be a contemporary artist who happened to have a concentration in fibers. But, like, even as someone who concentrates in fibers, that doesn't limit me to only working with fiber pieces, you know? Like, I'm incorporating photo into my final. I'm going to be doing performative elements for my thesis show, you know, all that type of things. And, like, I've known fibers majors who, like, don't work with, like, typical fiber material, just like sculpture majors like work with different things, just like painting majors like to like branch outside of like the typical idea of painting and use like non-traditional materials. It's not the materials that like interest me within fibers, because like that's just something I don't think about. Well, I do think about it, but in a different way. And that's what I'm getting to. It's like, for me, the concentrations are really like how you think about stuff. And so like, say, if you're a metals major, you're gonna be having conversations about adornment and what people put on their body, right? Because that's just natural. So there are plenty of people who are metals concentration in art school, and they don't work exclusively with metals. They're making adornments out of other things, but that's like their like focus in terms of conversation, and that's because of the history of what metals and jewelry is. So with fibers, the reason I'm so interested in it is because it has so much history in I guess gendered studies, and I am really interested in the concept of gender in general, and like how we gender things. And fibers is gendered as female for some reason, and I'm really interested in the history of that and why we do those things, and what does it mean when something, an inanimate thing, is gendered as female, and how is it different if someone is doing fiber things if they're not female, etc., stuff like that. And so with fibers, I like it because I can have all these conversations about gender and labor, and it makes sense because of the history of it, right? So I might be working with things outside of fibers, but I'm having conversations about that or thinking about that. So in terms of like how I analyze fiber pieces, I'm really thinking about the cultural context of said thing, because like that's really important in fibers. Is like, what's the context, what's the gender context, what's the cultural context, what's the associations. Like, you know, if I see a fibers piece that's using denim, I'm thinking about the labor industry and like the working class in America or the Industrial Revolution, you know? And as opposed to it being a color or it being a texture, which are important things, obviously. As artists, we are thinking about form and aesthetics, but also I'm really thinking about cultural context of that material. And I know that it's a masculine associated material, and I'm like starting to like draw abstraction and poetics and you know, thoughts from that, and like, why is this piece made out of that? So like that's my big approach, is like when I'm looking at a fibers piece, I'm like drawing in as many associations and trying to understand what is that artist like speaking towards because of that.
So what's the framing?
Yes.
There you go.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I gotta say,
What are you?
I mean, my mind's a little blown. I gotta be honest, because there's what I'm hearing you say is almost that there's real research and analysis that's going into these pieces.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're making advancements in the study of, you're talking about the gendering of an inanimate object and the sources of that data and those feelings and how that is affecting society. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's not just art. That's not just fabric thrown up on a wall. That's important study for today.
Yeah. I think in terms of what, not just like art in today, but like our political climate and our social climate, I think, and this is me being biased because I am, you know, concentrating in fibers, I think fibers is one of those art forms that translates really well to like contemporary conversations about gender and sexuality and minorities and marginalized people, because when you think about it, fibers is it's one of the things that's most ingrained with human history, and it means so much to every human. Like the clothes you wear means so much to every person, and means so much to your family and to your culture and to so many different things.
And your blankie.
Yeah, but like it also is so practical. It's also so practical, and like from the beginning of human history, we've had to figure out a way to clothe ourselves in order to stay warm and survive. And I think that's why it translates so well, because it has so much of an art history, but also so much of a human history. Yeah, digging in.
Zachari, I have a question for you, because I also find this interesting. In like architectural design and industrial design, you guys think a lot about function and human interaction with what you make, and you have to look at like an empty room and think about how it would fit with people, how it would fit with one person, how it would fit with 50, right? So you think a lot about like human mechanics, but how do you think like architectural design moving forward can positively affect the human like culture and human society? Because I think we're at a time where, I mean, every time the world comes into a point of tumultuous or like tumult,
tumultuousness,
right? Tumultuality, whatever. You know what I mean? When things get tough and like things start to get, people start biting at each other, nipping at heels, and then it starts getting into fists being thrown and things being said, and the important aspect of society that always stands up and always lasts through that period is the creative, are the creatives, and where you live and what you sit in and how you live, especially now when you're talking about overpopulation and all this, the food shortages and things like, right? I mean, the list goes on and on. What do you see as its possible impact?
Okay, so basically architecture is like our I guess common thread. Everyone needs somewhere.
I love that.
That was so beautiful.
Oh, that's like Pinterest canvas right there.
Gosh.
Whether it's like their own home or like their own like room. Like right now I'm in an apartment with someone I don't even know, but like I have my own space and we share a space, and like that's forcing me to create a relationship with someone that like normally I wouldn't. And I feel like that's the way like architecture works in general. Like the way our buildings are set up, we're forced to pass each other. We're forced to make connections, whether we want to or not. I can be having a horrible day and not want anyone to speak to me, but I'm going to see you in the hallway. And either way, I should say hi, like, because I'm going to see you.
I know it pains you.
No, I love you. But, like, there are days like that, but people, like, we need a reason to say hello. We need a reason to make connections. We need a reason to communicate with each other, to have a dialogue. Because, like, all of our problems in today's world, I'm going to say, I might be wrong, is because we have a failure to create a dialogue. So, like, if we force each other to create dialogue, whether it's through our spaces or, like, the way we set up our lives, whatever we have to do, I really do think architecture can be a ally for that, though. Just because the way you can set up a like function for a building or for a space, if you force people to go down a certain alley or you force people to meet with a certain road, people are going to either be passing each other every day or maybe a new person who's never been here before, and like that's just always nice to have. Also, like when we have issues as far as like gender and like just people like not getting along, like JMU now has gender neutral bathrooms, which I think is amazing. What if every building only had like one massive bathroom?
Yeah.
Like, why are there several different rooms next to each other that have the same utilities, have the same pipes in the walls?
I'm pretty sure more walls.
Why build the wall?
Unnecessary wall.
Break down the wall. Like,
I'm pretty
you're
sure we
gonna
all
save
grew up
money.
going into a bathroom that wasn't specifically for one gen. I think
exactly.
Pretty sure all of us had a mom and a dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
In some existence.
Yeah.
And maybe a male or a female or not their own. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a shower. and it's a toilet, and it's a sink.
Yeah.
And in your homes, no one's like, oh, you're a girl, you can only go to the upstairs bathroom.
Yeah.
You go to whatever bathroom is in your house
Yeah.
because that's like the way it is. I've walked into the bathroom with my older brother and they're like, it's my brother. We're a family. I've walked into the bathroom and my roommate's in there who's a guy and like I'm just like, hey dude, what's up? Like it shouldn't be a
make
problem.
no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, they're a great conduit for just such a larger issue.
Yeah.
Perfect.
yeah, I don't understand the bathroom fear in our culture right now. Well, not right now. It's always been a thing. Like when homosexual culture, like people started coming out as gays, they were like, they're gonna attack me in the bathroom. Did not happen.
African-Americans.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, 50s,
Yeah.
not
Well,
even
same with
50 years
lesbians.
ago.
Same with trans people. It's not happening. Like a bathroom is a place to pee, and then you wash your hands. Hopefully. And
Hopefully.
yeah.
I think we would all be more accountable if we were all in the same bed.
Yes.
Everyone's gonna wash their
Actually,
damn hands
yes.
then.
And they would probably smell better because, you know,
Yeah.
guys kind of
Well,
make
also,
things hard.
you know what's interesting?
I feel like we'd be a little more respectful.
Maybe.
On the topic of bathrooms, this is like not like a huge thing, but what I like
Not that
recently
I'm
was
really
reading
into-
about, which I thought was really interesting. So in a building, what seems like it's fair is to have an equal number of men's and women's restroom. Like that seems like the equal thing to do. But statistically, women have to go to the bathroom more often because of bladder size and because of like usually like they're the ones who take the baby to a changing room. Like there's like a ton of other reasons that women have to go to the bathroom, which is why there are always longer lines at women's restrooms. So it's why aren't there more women's restrooms?
Society doesn't care. Yeah.
One restroom.
Let's be
One.
real.
Solve the issue. Just
Right, yeah.
big old
Just,
restrooms
and on one
everywhere.
side, just a long, just wall for babies. Just
A baby wall.
Baby wall.
It will be labeled baby wall.
And it'll have like a nice scoop in there so they can't fall out. You know what I mean? It's like,
Beautiful.
like they can roll around back
well.
and forth.
I
You know what
expect
I mean?
this to be your like main
Yeah,
project.
this
if
will
you
be your
could-
thesis.
That is my
This is your-
senior project.
Jewel in your
Done.
crown. Just
Who knew bathroom talk would be
Yeah.
so relevant in 2017?
Yeah, I wish it
I feel
wasn't.
like someone could have called it.
I don't know, man.
I wish it
Back in
wasn't
middle
relevant.
school, we
Wow.
we think we'd still be talking about.
Well,
bathrooms?
actually, you know what's funny is, I mean, to get onto a sensitive, to tread into sensitive territory, I was watching Louis C.K. recently and watching his early stuff, and if you remember, there's quite a bit of, let's say, inappropriate language, but also insensitive language. But I remembered watching it when I was that age, and a lot of, talking about, gay and all this, that, and whatever. And the word, it's crazy how it, like, how our, and just like, posts on Facebook and stuff like that, when we were just starting out, like 8th grade, 7th grade, like, when we should not have been on social media. We had
Oh yeah.
I wasn't allowed.
Right, exactly. But I got one anyway,
Yeah,
and I didn't put
that
it on
was
my parents'
me.
back, right? So, I remember watching, Louis C.K. and it was great, right? And it was funny because it was kind of taboo, but it was taboo. It wasn't in the same way it is now. And I look back then, I was like, he doesn't have the same delivery that he has then, now that he had then, because he can't, not that he can't. I think he would find a lot less favor in his audience, but it wasn't that he wasn't stepping that far out of the bounds, and that was what was so crazy. It was just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Just 10 years ago, everything was like, oh, that's gay, this is gay, shut up, don't be gay.
Yeah.
Like, and it just meant nothing. I mean, it was just, it's just, I don't know. It, just something that I saw and felt relevant to the conversation.
Yeah.
I think those cultural tones and attitudes towards things are changing very quickly, which is really good.
Yeah, but I also think we're at a weird place where there's like a counterculture against that right now. Like,
Isn't there always going to
There's
be?
always going to be a
Yeah.
counterculture against quick advancement, against
Yes.
change. But I think that fast growth and change within like our dialogue is really good. And it's also, I think, important to realize that yes, like 10 years ago it was very different, and to not victimize Louis C.K. necessarily.
Right, no, he's
for being who he was
Of the
in that
time.
time. And that's just, everyone was there at that same time, and now we're all here, and like we've all grown, and we've all like advanced that dialogue, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Louis C.K., he's a great comedian, he's a brilliant writer, whatever. I mean, he's a great director, and you know, his comedy has a certain, he's unashamed of what he does. I mean, he has a certain delivery and he just accepts whatever consequences for it. And it is funny, but then, you know, when you place some of it in the different contexts, it loses its humor. Actually, Dave Chappelle had one of it, you know, he did like 3 specials in a row, like after being gone. One of them was like, kind of, it was like, dude, this is not 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It was there were parts that were funny, but it was like, I don't know, man. I thought you were like growing when you were away, and you come back and it's like almost just harder on stuff that is different. I'm gonna say that. I don't know how else to just broadly describe that. It's not different. See, that's wrong. You know what I mean? Anyway,
I think not having the linguistic categories to describe what I'm thinking.
Right, so
the worst.
You know what I mean. You're getting what I. But okay, so here's a good question.
Segue?
Yeah, segue is what's the important, or how important is being a leader as someone who's a creative right now? Like how important is it to be not just someone who creates, but someone who does something with what they create?
So with my major, architecture, I feel like it's a very timeless sort of thing because, like I said, someone always needs somewhere. And like buildings are very like stagnant. Like you build it and it stays until it gets torn down. So like I feel like it's also a great, I don't want to say medium, but I guess medium to be a leader, because like if you design something a certain way and like somebody copies it or like they understand, then they'll like grow from that. Like modernism was a whole movement and like people didn't get it at first, like they didn't like it, and eventually like it caught on, and the whole purpose was like to create a utopian society and make things good, and like for some people it did that, and I think that's great. So like I feel like if I can do that with my work, like maybe not try to create a utopian society, but solve like certain problems. Like if I decided maybe I wanted to work on the housing crisis, like as I could be a leader in that place through my major.
Modular housing.
Yeah, anything. Modular housing, just affordable housing, using resources or materials that just don't cost as much. We have so many advances in technology. We 3D print houses now. Like, that's amazing to me. And, like, using that to propel the future, to propel, like, society, I think is an easy thing to do through, like, not only my major, but, like, all art, all business, just everything. We have so much technology, and I just need people to use it. Sorry.
Not just use it, utilize it to its past its full potential.
Yeah.
And not for like your own
Financial
personal
gains.
means or financial gains. Like, do something for someone.
I mean, both. I think it's Elon Musk who's, I mean, just the purest example of making a lot of money off of doing good, right? His all of it, and also an example of the fact that you can always have a 1-page resume. Look it up. If Elon Musk can have a 1-page resume, you can have.
You need a 1-page
right?
resume.
Yeah. Invents PayPal. No, and I think that's so true. Also, you know, it's interesting how architecture is a monument of culture a lot of the time. You see that in like Rome and France, blah, 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 whatever. You see it all over the place, right? And you study it, right? I think it'd be so interesting to finally get to a point where there's a gap, you know, looking back in history of this housing, of like remaining housing units, because these, you know, we've gotten to the point where we don't just build something and it stays. Like it builds and then, you can break it down and move it, or you can, you know, break it down and rebuild it into something else. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. That's honestly, and that's the coolest part about like just anything that we're doing is moving forward. Is there's so much that we don't know that's just ready to be, you know, made and ready to be thought up. So wait, what's one thing we can make cheaper that we are making now? Like what's, like you said,
like in houses,
like, or just you said there's like, you know, materials, resources that are far cheaper. What's one that
I mentioned like 3D printing houses. It's 1,000,000% cheaper because of labor. Most of the time it's either some sort of concrete or like some of them they mix concrete and paper so that like one, it's recycling, two, it's pretty sustainable, and most times those are like for temporary housing because eventually the paper like does break down, whatever. But pouring concrete is one of the cheapest building materials just because it's dirt and water and rocks, just things that are readily available all the time. Like I could go outside and probably mix up some concrete eventually.
Wipe it off my shoes, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's just a little bit easier because they like make a design, put it in a program, this massive machine does it, but it can do it like 1,000,000 times in the amount of time it would take 200 workers to do the same amount of buildings with the same materials, just because you don't have to pour a mold. The machine is the mold. It does it for you. And also, like, I want us to get out of the stigma of, like, walls that look like, well, not these walls that you can see, but, like, the normal, like, walls in a home. Like, why does the wall have to be drywall? Like,
right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be brick either, like in the past, but why can't it be concrete? Why can't we have a concrete wall in our, like, in our everyday homes, not just like, oh, I'm living in a flat, like, or a studio that was an old factory at one point. Like, I just think that houses could be built with cheaper materials. Not that drywall is super expensive, but the things that are inside the wall, like the things supporting the ceiling, everything, we could figure out a cheaper way. There are cheaper metals than what people use, just because, one, everybody's trying to make money off of each other, and two, some people just don't know the readily available resources, which is part of, like, I think what JMU's trying to do. We have to research before we do every project. We have to look up sustainable materials. We have to look up lighting techniques. Like, I've done 2 papers on solar energy this year, like, just this year. And, like, I just think that's a great thing, because we all need to figure out, like, what we have available, not just for buildings, but, like, if you're a business major, you need to know, like, what's going on in the world, or if you're a marketing major, you need to know what you can market. Like, there are so many things.
It's beautiful.
So I have a question about I'm not really sure how to phrase my question, but a lot what we're talking about, and maybe because we sort of stemmed into a very specific tangent of your work, but a lot of what we just mentioned was, you know, the economics of building something, the being, like, cheapening the materials. Is that all? I mean, is that always the way to go?
I mean, not always, just because sometimes things just can't be cheap. Like, if you want something to be strong, you can't always use the cheapest thing, because sometimes it takes a process to get there, and, like, that's money, that's machinery, that's people, and sometimes things are better built by hand. Like, not everything can be done by a machine, no matter how much society doesn't want to believe that and roboticize everything. Sometimes it is better by hand, which I understand, but I want us to explore the ability to do things in other ways. Whether we decide, like, oh no, it doesn't work that way, that's fine, but we should know. Like, we shouldn't have to be curious as to whether we have to do it, or, like, we can figure it out a different way.
That's a question that should be answered.
Yeah.
What is your question, though? Because there's some, like, lingering, like, skepticism.
Well, yeah.
Like, hanging around, and, like, where was that tone in here?
Well, I mean, I think we can.
Okay, so here, someone was asking me, can't you make a shutter of a camera digitally, and can't you make it faster? I was like, no, you can't. There's no way you can make an engine that shoots 12 to 16 frames per second in a digital manner. It's like, not, the technology doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, I think my question was just, it sounds like a lot of your ideas and thinking are driven by driving down cost, but why is that the end goal?
As opposed to...
You're right. Why
isn't the end goal creating a better product as opposed to making a cheaper product?
Yeah.
And where does the appreciation go for a house that is built, you know, true to historical code, you know, with hand-tooled molding and hand-planed clapboards, and, you know, the cost and energy that goes into something that's maybe so handcrafted and honest and true, versus something that is, in my mind, equally as beautiful in a hugely innovative concrete and steel, enclosure. I guess should we really be striving for cheapness, or should we be striving for betterness?
I think that's just like the reason I like voice that is because that's just a part of the way I am right now. Like, my mom used to be a social worker, so we dealt a lot with like homeless families, homeless kids. So like, I think that in the future I want to do something with maybe sustainable housing. So maybe that's why just making housing cheaper and easier to get to. Maybe that's why my answers were pushed that way. But also like, I do agree. I see the beauty in old houses. Like Harrisonburg has beautiful homes, most of which are probably like made by hand.
Yeah.
And I see them. They're beautiful. I adore them. Like I love old houses, but I think it's just because that's possibly the road I'm going to go down.
It also seems a bit like luxurious,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
well, most of the houses like that are pretty expensive now. Like these, like because people don't necessarily make them like this anymore. They are like becoming more expensive, even if they are the only houses in the area. And I feel like that's also part of my thing. Like, if this is the only thing available and it is that expensive, like, what do the people do who can't afford it?
Yeah.
So, like, college students. Yeah. We shouldn't have to be 26 of us to live in a home.
Right.
Yeah.
That reference, though.
We're all like, yes.
Bonus
Sorry.
points if you know what we're talking about.
Touchy subject. Matt, why don't you answer that question? The original question.
Go back.
Right, yeah.
Art and leadership.
Sorry.
Oh man, I feel like my answer is gonna be a little bit like wonky. I came to a realization. How am I gonna phrase this without like sounding uppity or rude? Okay, I don't personally want to make activist art.
Wow, that's so contradictory, and I love it. Please.
Yeah. Okay. So, people misconstrue my art sometimes as activist art because I like to make art, personal art, in the sense that like I use art very much as a form of expression and a form of exploring my narrative, my thoughts, a form of abstracting my thoughts, a form of like really trying to get to a deeper level of introspection for myself. And because of that, I'm exploring a lot of themes of gender and sexuality because I myself am a queer being. So my art is political.
Right.
Because I am a political being.
Innately. Yeah.
Yes, inherently. But I'm not making art trying to say, I deserve more rights as a trans person. I deserve more rights as someone who's not heterosexual. Like, that's not my intention with my art. I'm not trying to, like, change laws. I'm not trying to reform anything. I'm not trying to be a leader in my art. I'm just trying to express things that I'm really interested in thinking and exploring because it's an intellectual, creative pursuit for me. And I'm not saying that art shouldn't be political or it shouldn't be activist art, or I'm not saying I don't respect activist art. I mean, I do if you can do it well, but sometimes personally I don't like activist art in the sense that it's too like in your face, and for me my art is very much about poetics and abstraction, and it just is not something that I'm very much into, which I understand that's a personal like bias. But activist art, in order to be fighting for reform and fighting for change in society, it has to be very straightforward, and that's just like not the type of art I'm interested in. Also, but at the same time, the medium of art is a layer of abstraction inherently. You know, you're not using your words, you're using some form of creative expression in art. And if you're trying to be a leader or activist or have dialogues about very important things and trying to change things, I think it's more important to talk about it / have a real dialogue than make art and put it in a museum somewhere and hope that a bunch of people sees it and someone writes an article about it, you know? Like, I think it's way more important to be engaging in our political system if you're trying to make a change, you know? Engaging in the systems we have set up or fighting against them or whatever, like, your views are, than making art about it. And I guess that's weird because people don't expect that from me because I occupy both roles. I am an artist, but I also very much am an activist outside of my art life. And people like tend to like conflate the two together, and that's just not my personal approach to it.
That's an unexpected but yet very interesting response. Yeah, I mean,
well spoken.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when you get into these times of trouble, to separate yourself from something that can just be embedded within your art that you didn't put in there, right? So like that big Trump dystopia. I did it basically because I didn't want to do 4 individual paintings or whatever, drawings. I always wanted to do something big, and I was like, well, the election's coming up. What should I do? I mean, like, really, what can I paint? And it was like, I have my personal opinions, but also caricature is so easy. I'm not saying that I'm in any way a like great drawer, painter. You know what I mean? I got no horse in that race whatsoever. What I did is just funny. It's funny, and it has a commentary, and then like, unfortunately, there are things that were depicted in it that became less and less funny as they started to become reality.
Yes.
And I had this real experience of going from doing something that was like, it was personal, and I was just kind of saying stuff that I just, I'm a funny guy, I make jokes, right, And so it was like a very, very intellectualized joke. That then became something that was political. Like, I mean, it was obviously inherently political because of what I was talking about. But then when what I depicted became less abstract and far more grounded in reality, I realized that there was something that a way to make a difference was to step up and use that as a way to be like, yes, this is what I back this with X, Y, and Z. Point of that story. Going forward, you have responsibilities that are beyond your control, as far as whatever job or realm you inhabit. So especially if you yourself do not consider yourself an activist, don't you have to think about your work as activism?
I think my work is activism in the sense that, like, there are different avenues and forms of activism. So giving myself a voice, which, like, is not a thing that, like, my identity typically has. Like, people who are marginalized, minority groups tend to have less of a voice in society. So giving myself a voice, that is a form of activism in the sense that, like, I am making who I am and my identity and my narrative more open and more available for people to, like, be aware of. That's a form of activism, but I also think that another important form of that can't be the only form of activism. I think that there's so many different things that you can do as an activist that, like, are just as important, or if not more important, that, like, I don't want to, like, be like, oh, this is my only form of activism. So yes, my art is activism in the sense that, like, that what I just said, but I also want to, like, actually be on the front lines of fighting for change and fighting for life rights. So, like, I think it's important to, like, have that narrative out there, but I also think it's important to, like, do other things.
You want to DiCaprio it up.
Yeah, I just yes, but I want to do all the things. Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I want to do all the things too. Tanner, you feel I'm feeling a question from you.
No,
really.
No,
I was wrong.
No
first
question.
I'm first time.
I'm loving your responses, and yeah, I think one thing I will say is that there is no doubt that art can be activism, and I think that speaking in those more abstracted tones and through those different mediums can break through boundaries that people have set up.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when people aren't willing to have direct dialogue and communication, sometimes
the
abstract forms can sort of shot them in the head and break through. So I think that's an important aspect of activism. Yeah. Whether or not we choose to use it in our own art is another question. So.
I think the existence of it is just as important as like the promotion. You know what I mean?
I mean, I also think it's good as a way to open up dialogue. Art is so important for opening up dialogue, but I think it's just as important to continue that dialogue outside of just the art viewing or the interaction you have with that art post that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I have an interesting question that we can kind of land on. There's and then we have a final question. So, adherence to structure or quality of work, and this is a question that really transcends and spans your whole life, right? Because there's people who are stay in their lane, and there are people who and get things done on time and and hit deadlines and things of that nature, and then there are people who put out really, really, really great work, but they're constantly late. So, but that's just an example.
Not mutually exclusive.
No, that's what I'm
I was
saying.
about to say
that's
they're
what I'm
not.
saying is they're not mutually exclusive, but which would you choose if you had to? As far as growth and that's there's
always late. I'm always late.
Yeah, I am too. So.
I'm not actually always late. I'm pretty good with deadlines.
So bad.
In the sense that I will force myself to be good with them, but I would choose the always late one, and in the sense that I don't like the idea of doing less just to make a deadline.
It might not be less. That's why it's structure.
Structured.
Like adherence to the rubric, we'll call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing something
extra.
Extra.
I'm extra.
So I feel like for me right now, but also sophomore, just starting out, don't want to piss anybody off too much.
Make waves.
Yeah. I think
Ripple
right
it
now I'm at the point where structure is my thing, just because I want to make sure I get the key points that they're trying to point out, but also I know I'm not going to live my life like that. Outside of school, I'll be doing projects on the side and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to have this done by next month, and I have no progress by next month. I'm thinking of it conceptually and there's sketches in my sketchbook, but nothing physical. And I'm like, dang. But it's because I'm trying to develop what I want to see, how I'm going to attack this plan, project, whatever. But I think right now in school I'm at the structure point because I guess I just want to make sure I absorb as much as I can before trying to push my own, I guess, personality into it, which I know personality in your own work is important, but I also am a firm believer that professors do have a point to the majority, if not all, of their projects. We're supposed to learn something from everything, I would hope.
Yes.
So that's the way I look at it right now.
You need some semblance of solid ground before you make a leap.
I mean, it's like training wheels. The structure you have in undergrad, very much like training wheels, because you need that structure to learn your own studio practice, how to learn and how to work. It's very great for figuring out how to format how you want to work outside of classes, based off of what you learn from those structures and what you like from them. You pick and choose things that you're this is what I want to adopt in my own studio practice. And then eventually towards the end of undergrad / post-grad, you take those training wheels off and you don't have the structure, but you remember that structure and you
wobble a little bit.
Yeah.
You can learn how to safely combat the structure in your own way.
It's a really good analogy because you only stay upright on a bike by pedaling, right?
Yeah.
If you stop, you fall over. Yeah.
Never stop making work. That's the solution.
Keep working.
Just keep
working.
going.
Always working.
Never sleep.
So
Never.
All right, so this is the last question. I ask it at almost every interview that I do. I ask this question because it's a very interesting question. I always get interesting answers, and I'd like to hear what people say. So, what is the most important piece of advice you've received when you needed it most? Because that's not the most important piece of advice. That's the most important piece of advice when you need it. The one that went you were here and then you were there, or you were falling off the cliff and there's a hand, or you were just gonna leave and there's someone who's wait, let's have coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is a good question.
I might have mine.
Okay.
I'm gonna watch this and then be no, that's not right. But
God, no.
Go for it.
I'm going to say architecture classes in high school. My teacher was just like a very propelling force in like my life, not just like my work, but like just my life in general. He knew like everything. Like we were like best friends. Like he knew my relationships, he knew my family status. Like he threatened to beat up boys. Like it was just a great like relationship.
Man after my own.
So just like there was one point I was in an all-male architecture class. That's the way it was at my high school. It's complete opposite here. There are, like, all girls in architecture. Yeah. There's, like, 6 guys, I think, in my studio. I was in an all-male group. They were kind of jerks. Like, high school boys are jerks.
Yes,
they're horrible.
And so I distinctly remember, I wrote my college essay about this, being told to shut up and go make someone a sandwich. Wow. At that point, I finished my project, left the room, came back with sandwiches, and got a 100 on the project. So I put 100% on the front of everyone's sandwich. Yes. So they each got a sandwich, and my teacher was the one that was like, hey, don't take that shit. Like, I keep cursing, I'm sorry.
It's a podcast.
Don't take that. You are, like, a woman, but you are the woman. Like, you are getting the highest grade in this class. He showed me I shouldn't say this. He showed me the mean of the class and, like, where I was. And basically, we had a sit-down talk after that class, which happened. Also, he kicked that kid out of the class, so he was gone. But,
Justice.
But we had a sit-down talk, and he was like, Zachari, like, yes, you are a girl, but you are the girl. Like, you are doing what you want to do. You are making waves. You are, like, being a demanding force in the class. We were supposed to do one project, and I convinced the teacher to do a completely different one. Like, just because I thought it would fit better with the class. And he realized that, and we just... I don't know his exact words. I don't remember his exact words, but I just remember that discussion being, like, something that was very motivating to me. Because he was a male teacher, and he was used to teaching classes of all guys. I was his first female student. Wow.
Oh, wow.
His teacher. I was his first female student. Well, not the first. I was one of the very few, and it had been, like, a long period of time before he had another girl, like, even after me. My sister, who's 3 years younger than me, was the next one. Wow. So, like, there aren't really that many girls that take the classes, so, like, him not siding with the guys, which I guess is his job, him not siding with them was just very helpful to me, because in my head I was like, okay, architecture is a pretty male-dominated field. It's growing in the female aspects, but, like, it is male-dominated, so what if I have to deal with this for a while? Female architects are always, like, they have way more articles written about them just because people like to critique them. I'm not going to say way more, because obviously if something's good and it's by a male, there's going to be a ton of articles about it because it's good, but you will see more critiques on female work, just either good or bad, because people pay more attention because there's not as many.
Well, also people are just always ready to critique
that too.
It has that novelty.
Yeah. Yes.
I hate to use that in a derogatory way, but
the token female, so to speak.
So also being black and female, like, another motivating thing.
You're killing it.
Killing that double minority guys.
Undo.
Okay, so I guess the most important in relationship to, like, time of my life, because, like, I've gotten such great advice from all my coaches and professors and mentors and role models throughout my lifetime, especially at college, but greatest piece of advice I got was from my mom, actually, and because of the timing and the delivery of it, and my mom's, like, my hero in life. Actually, quick question before I tell the story. Did y'all ever learn how to iron clothes? / when did you learn how to iron clothes?
When I was a kid, I was taught how to fold laundry, and I'm Jewish, we go to synagogue, whatever, and there was just the concept of, like, if you're gonna wear the clothes, you should learn how to take care of the like, if you're gonna wear nice clothes, you need to learn how to take care of the clothes. Well, I mean, I messed it up a good number of times, like spilling a crap ton of water all over it and burning myself and whatever. But I mean, it was probably, like, I don't know, 9 or 10. Okay.
Never learned.
Never learned.
Mine was pretty early, but just because I'm a military family.
Okay.
Dad. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I wasn't like too terribly off because I learned when I was, I think, a junior in high school. Senior in high school, actually. Yes, senior in high school because my brother was working at the time. My brother was working a job at the time as an engineer or something of that sort. And my mom, because she's wonderful and loves doing stuff for us and is just like a phenomenal mom, would iron a shirt for him every morning for him, which was so nice, right? And so I remember one morning I wanted to help my mom, and so I was like, teach me how to iron a shirt for my brother so I could learn how to iron a shirt. In general, I thought it would be a useful skill to have. But like at that time, like as most high schoolers are, I was a lazy bum who did not do anything for myself, had no work ethic, had no like desire to go anywhere in life whatsoever. I was like hardcore senioritis, like barely showing up to classes most days, you know, that type of thing.
Even if you were there.
Yeah, and like I'd just space out the whole time. I was just a horrible student. I was a straight C student in high school, actually, fun fact, and it's funny because I actually have a work ethic now. But I remember my brothers would like tell me every day, it's like, oh Nat, you're such a lazy bum, you're gonna go nowhere in life. Which like granted at the time was true if I had like continued to be the lazy person I was. And so my mom is teaching me how to iron a shirt, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm just trying to do a nice thing for my mom because I love her. And as she was doing it, she's like giving me a life lesson while she was teaching me how to iron a shirt, and she's like, Nat, the most important thing isn't that you iron the shirt well, is that you understand how to iron the shirt well. And I was like, what? And she's like, so you're learning something new and it's gonna be unfamiliar to you, and it's really important that you take the care and the time to do it as well as possible the first time you try it. Don't depend on repetition, which is really important to getting good at something. Don't depend on that next time because you don't know if you're always going to get that next time. So every time you do something, you take the care to do it as well as you can at that moment, or else you shouldn't do it at all. And it's like, it might not be good at the first time, but you have to do the best job you can do. And every time you do it after that, do the best job you can do and it'll be better. And I was just like completely mind blown. You know, 17-year-old me is like, how did my mom give me a life lesson while I was ironing shirts? And then you know, she asked me, she's like, do you take that care with anything in your life currently? And honestly, at that moment, I was like, no, I never take care of things in my life. I'm never taking that time to do things the best I can at any given moment. And I was like, what happens if I try to do my best in everything after that moment? And I think that was like kind of the like pivoting point in like my life where I was like, I want to like be really good at something, and I want to be able to like take care of things.
The sumi, the grinding your ink.
Grind your ink, man.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're gonna play your last game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone who ever played a sport realized that too late.
Yeah. So
that's it. You
take care of everything.
The opportunity
do
you
your
have.
best work.
Yeah.
Make the most of it.
Excellent.
And when you're ironing shirts, just iron them real well.
That too.
Yeah.
Crisp with love.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Do you have any other questions?
I think this has been phenomenal.
I think it's been wonderful.
Thank you so much. This has been...
Yeah, seriously, guys. The ladies, men, women, they, them, he,
People,
she, it.
it.
Living organisms in this room, including the fly that's been pestering.
I've been trying to not notice it.
So wait, how are we gonna change it? What are we gonna change the phrase to? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Gentle people.
Gentle people.
Gentle people.
I love that. Gentle people. That's beautiful. Oh God, I love that. I'm inspired. Gentle people. It also sounds like a kid's like
Story.
TV show that's like really nice.
Yeah.
Gentle people.
Gentle people.
And next
the
week,
musical.
Next week on Kappa Picast.
Gentle people.
I'm so down with that. All right, well, that's it from Harrisonburg, Virginia. What are we? Gamma Kappa?
No.
Chapter
Of Kappa Pi.
I was like, we're Kappa Pi. We're not Gamma Kappa. What's that?
Yeah, largest chapter in America.
James Madison University.
Episode
Go
2.
Dukes.
Done.
Well, Dust.
There's a poster There's a cup. There's a
Malcolm.
box of Cheerios. There's 2 cameras. There's measuring tape.
I know where you sleep.
There's some Jaegers.